Before I get started, here's some quick information about LINCS. LINCS is operated by the American Institute for Research, AIR, under a contract with the United States Department of Education, Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education. This disclaimer lets you know that although working under this contract, the content does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the United States Department of Education. All participants are expected to adhere to the LINCS Code of Conduct. Anyone who does not will be removed from the event. All right, and with that out of the way, I'll turn it over to you, Marcel, to get things started.
Great. Thanks so much, Grace. So we have a couple more people coming in. Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar, Leveraging LINCS in 2024. Today is August 30th, 2023. For those of you who are maybe a little less familiar with our LINCS Universal TA webinar series, I wanted to provide a little bit of background before we get started. So today's session is part of our LINCS Universal TA Wednesday webinar series. It is a monthly webinar series that we provide focused on the topics that matter most to you as members of the field. And the intention of this series is to support states in building their capacity in important areas. And we know that you're all very busy, so you might not be able to make all of our webinars. So with that in mind, we record our webinars and have them available on the LINCS YouTube channel. Let's see. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the project director of LINCS, Charisse Moore, will provide a LINCS overview. Charisse?
Thank you, Marcella. Next slide. Okay, so the LINCS Technical Assistance Center is a project that was formerly known as the LINCS Resource Collection. The current period of performance is August 17th, 2022 through August 16th, 2026. The LINCS TAC includes providing TA for states to build capacity, expanding and enhancing the resource collection, managing the LINCS community groups, leading dissemination activities, growing our LINCS Learner Center, providing evidence-based professional development resources and courses through the Learning Portal, engaging in collaboration and coordination to support federal initiatives and OCTAE priorities and to improve LINCS, and managing the STAR project. We are very excited about the work that we are doing, and what you will see on this webinar, our Universal TA webinar, is a part of that first bullet, which is providing technical assistance for states to build capacity. So with that, just some highlights of who the LINCS Tech team is made up of. On this slide, you will see the logo for AIR, which is the main contractor for the LINCS Tech team, and along with the logos for our subcontractor partners, Calco Consulting Group, the Literacy Assistance Center, and MSG Manhattan Strategies Group. So with that, we will turn it back to Marcella, who will highlight where you go to access all the wonderful LINCS resources. Marcella.
Great. Thanks, Charisse, for that introduction. So hopefully you're all familiar with LINCS already, but if you're not, if it's been a little while perhaps since you've visited our website, you can access LINCS by visiting LINCS, that's lincs.ed.gov. And Grace has put that link in the chat for you as well. And when you go there, you'll find a wealth of information, but I also know that it can be a little overwhelming sometimes. So we just wanted to start today's webinar by breaking it down a little bit and making it a little bit more manageable, comprehensible, giving you some ideas of where to start. So just in terms of an overview and perhaps a reminder, because we talk about links a lot and sometimes we forget what the abbreviation stands for. It's the Literacy Information Communication System. And the intent of this project is to provide on-demand research and evidence-based professional learning and content for adult educators. So our website and the project as a whole, it really consists of 5 different components. We have our community of practice, our learning portal, our resource collection, state resources, and learner center. So I just wanted to pause. Maybe some of you are a little bit more familiar with one of these than the other. One of the things that we've done under this most recent contract is really worked to align across the different components to ensure that there's consistency and that we're focusing on the same 13 topics and areas across all of these. So those areas that we're focused on are career pathways and post-secondary transitions, civics education and citizenship, correctional and reentry education, diversity, equity, and inclusion, English language acquisition, integrating technology, learners with disabilities, math and numeracy, professional development, program management, reading and writing, science, and teaching and learning. And you can see all of those listed on the screen along with their corresponding icons. With an eye towards making things a little bit easier for streamlining everything and making sure that those who come to the LINCS website have the best user experience possible. We've put together these professional development guides, and you'll see on the screen a snapshot of an example of one of our professional development guides. This one in particular that you see on the screen is the snapshot of the professional development guide for career pathways and post-secondary transitions. And on the guide, when you go to those, they're found under About Links on our website. You'll see some specific resources related to this topic for our LINCS community, from our LINCS courses, from the LINCS Learner Center, the LINCS Resource Collection, and LINCS state resources and federal initiatives that relate to those. So again, putting it all together for you in one easy place, just a great starting place for you as you think about, there's a lot there. How do I navigate all of this? And thanks, Grace, for putting the link in the chat for where to navigate to all of those. So I did want to take a quick step back before we dive further, looking into all of those different resources and all the different components that are available through LINCS. And I wanted to find out from you, first, which of these components do you already engage with? You could just share in the chat if there's one that you really like, that you use. Maybe you really participate in a lot of discussions through the community of practice, or you've used in your state the learning portal quite a bit to look at or to use different courses that are available there. The resource collection has over 800 resources that we'll talk about in just a little bit. Maybe that's your favorite piece, some state resources, or you've discovered the Learner Center and have been able to utilize that. So again, please let us know in the chat what you're already using. Wonderful. All right, so thanks for sharing. Please keep typing it in. But in the meantime, I wanted to share with you that it looks like all of our different components are being used by a lot of people. The learning portal, the resource collection and learning portal in particular. Someone else shared that they're using the resource collection, community of practice. Wonderful. And also I want to I'm not going to call out any names, but someone noted that they're new staff. So I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us, because I'm hopeful that through today's conversation, you'll learn about what's available through LINCS, and we can continue to have conversations about how LINCS can be used to support you. So excited to see that all the components, it seems, are being used by different people. So thank you for sharing that. And then the other piece I wanted to share is, and check in with you on, is which of these topics you're already looking at. If there's one that you're really excited about that maybe you didn't know was there and you might want to explore. Great, thanks, Grace. Oh. So we have a poll that you can fill out to share that information. So I'm seeing that there are a lot of people interested in English language acquisition, lots of career pathways and secondary transitions as well. Professional development is, not surprisingly, given our audience today, a really big topic, or a topic of interest. All right. Well, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's always good to know kind of where the field really has interest, and some areas that we might want to follow up on. All right. So let me continue to move us ahead. Oh. Sorry about that. Let me stop sharing and I'm going to share again. All right. Now I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into one of our components. I shared earlier that we have 5. And so the first one that I wanted to look at was the LINCS community, or community of practice, as it was labeled on our previous slide. So the LINCS community is made up of 13 community groups. And again, on the right-hand side of our screen, you'll see those 13 community groups listed. They're the ones that I mentioned earlier. We had in 2022 to 2023, 103 live events, which is just incredible. These community groups are led by subject matter experts who serve as moderators. These are such incredibly hardworking people, and they're just so knowledgeable, and we're so lucky to have them. The LINCS community provides opportunities for you to engage in conversations with others that are interested in the same topics as you are, and also that have most likely had similar experiences to yours, or are wondering similar things that you are. So while there are discussions that are led by our moderators, we always encourage you to post questions if you have any, about something that you're wondering, something that you're trying or you're considering trying. It's a great resource for you. We in this past year had, in addition, 19 guest discussions. Our moderators brought in additional subject matter experts to speak on specific topics that relate to the broader topic of the community group. So it's always a fantastic place to learn and grow. And we have some fantastic events coming up. Grace shared in the chat the link that you can follow to find out what community events we have coming up. we encourage you to attend. And on the last thing I wanted to mention before we move on is on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you will see a QR code that you can use. If you're not already a member of the LINCS community, you can use that to join, to register and join and create an account. All right, so the next component that I wanted to mention is the Learning Portal. And the Learning Portal is a great place to access self-paced online courses. And the great thing about these online courses, because they're self-paced, self-directed, you can access them 24/7. They're always available. If you, in the middle of the night, you find you can't sleep, no worries, jump on the Learning Portal. You can take an online course, get your PD out of the way a little bit, learn about how to work on your knowledge about teaching adults to read. And once you get that checked off, you can go back to sleep. Or if in the middle you find, oh no, I really need to pause, you can always pause and come back to it, which is, I think, a really great characteristic or component of our courses. When you complete the course, you're able to download a certificate of completion for your records that shows that you finished the course. Some states have used that in different ways, so that's something to consider. In 2022 to 2023, we had a total of 5,416 course participants, which is incredible, and a total of 2,783 certificates were awarded. And like on the previous slide, I want to highlight that on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the QR code that you can use to access the Learning Portal. You will need to sign in to be able to access those courses, and you'll just use the same account as you hopefully created on the last slide if you didn't already have it, using that QR code from the community group. The next component, one of my personal favorites, is the resource collection. In the resource collection, we have over 800 vetted resources for various audiences, including many instructional and program management resources. So I know that in adult education, we're always looking out for new resources to inform what we do in the classroom, and the resource collection is a fantastic place to do that. The resources are all, as it says on the screen, they're all vetted. That means that we have our expert reviewers who review them carefully. They're also within one of our 13 topics that I mentioned earlier in this webinar, and you can find just what you need. If, however, it is not there, if you go to the resource collection and you say, oh, I have an idea for an additional resource that we might want to put in there that I think others would really benefit from, we always encourage you to suggest it, and the link for how to do that is in the chat. And we also get suggestions from Octave for new resources. There are also resources identified through the training and technical assistance that we provide. And then also the federal initiatives that Octave funds often develop great resources, like the IET design toolkit that was recently added that you might be familiar with. As before, I want to draw your attention, the QR code is on the left-hand side that you can use to access the resource collection directly. I know it's very tempting to go take a look, but you'll be there with all 800 resources. It's an opportunity for a very deep dive. So I encourage you to take a look or snap the QR code, but hold on to it and take a look a little bit later. The next component that I wanted to highlight is our Learner Center. So the Learner Center is a very special piece of LINCS because this is focused specifically to support your learners. One of the wonderful things, however, is that instructors can also use this to support their instruction. So our Learner Center is focused on 7 topic areas, and these are topic areas that align with common goals that you'll find that your students have. For example, learn to read, learn math, learn science, learn English. And while I did say, for example, I'm going to go ahead and read all of those to you. Get job skills, become a U.S. citizen, and stay healthy. We have a total of over 120 resources available there that fall into one of those 7 categories. So again, you can point your students to the Learner Center and they can explore based on their goals, or if you're an instructor, you can include some of those resources in your own instruction. So I think, as I already said, we have 7 topic areas, and the QR code is there on the left-hand side that you can use to directly access that and explore the Learner Center a little bit more. I do encourage you to do that. People always get so excited when they go check it out about all the great things that are there. All right. So I know our audience today is largely state staff, so I wanted to highlight for you how LINCS serves you in the states. So one of the things that we do through LINCS is assist states in meeting your state leadership requirements as identified in WIOA. We provide TA to states. We use a 3-tier approach that I'll talk about in just a moment. We share promising models and resources. We provide an opportunity to discuss challenges, think about solutions, and just generally help you to build your state capacity. And we deliver research-based, high-quality trainings with our 3-tiered model. So I mentioned it twice, so let me tell you a little bit more about our approach to providing TA. So as you see on the right-hand side of the screen, it's we'd like to think of it kind of as a triangle. For those of you who are familiar with response to intervention in K-12, it might look familiar to you. At the base of our triangle, we have our universal technical assistance, and that technical assistance that's available to everyone, to all states and all state staff. And you don't need to do anything to access it. This webinar, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, is part of that universal technical assistance. It's our monthly webinars on topics of interest to you. The targeted technical assistance is on our triangle. It's the next tier up. And that is where we work with a cohort of states that are interested in a specific topic. And we work with the cohort of states, provide an opportunity for teachers within those states or program directors within that state to come together and learn together. And it's always really interesting to hear what others in different states are doing and learn about what you might want to apply within your own state. You're also working with a subject matter expert who provides great information, great guidance. And it's always really interesting to see how these cohorts come together and all the wonderful learning that happens there. At the top of our triangle, we have intensive technical assistance. And in intensive technical assistance, we work very closely one-on-one with a state. We identify and discuss what their topic or area of need is. We work very closely with them to figure out what the best format is for them to meet their need, to build their capacity. And it's very much tailored to that specific state and what that state needs. So looking again at our state resources that are available through LINCS, in the fiscal year 2022, we had a total of, it says 938 participants, but actually we had even more that were served through the 3 tiers that we offered. So at our universal level, we had 839 participants from 52 states and territories, which is absolutely amazing to me, just seeing that number. Within our targeted technical assistance, we had 99 participants from 4 states. And then in our intensive technical assistance, we worked very closely with 7 states. We didn't always, the participants weren't quite tracked as closely in all of those. But it's absolutely amazing to see all those numbers. And I want to encourage you to join us to become one of those numbers. You're more than a number, obviously, but to join us and find out how we can, or help us find out how we can support you. If you have any questions on how to access the state technical assistance, I'll talk about it a little bit more later. But I ask that you email us at training@lincs.ed.gov, and I'd love to discuss with you how we can support you in building your state's capacity. Last but not least, I did want to also highlight that through LINCS, we have a federal initiatives page that's also under state resources. And on this page, you can access all of the federally funded projects and all the fantastic resources that have been developed through those. So on the right-hand side, you'll see a snapshot of our federal initiatives page. And you'll see that the federal initiatives are broken into 4 categories: implementing state-adopted challenging content standards, integrating technology into teaching and learning, disseminating evidence-based methods and techniques, and partnering to develop career pathways. And again, Okta has funded so many wonderful initiatives. You can find the resources there that have been developed through those. And I want to just highlight for you the current federal initiatives: Advanced IET, Integrating Education and Training Corrections, Digital Resilience in the American Workforce, or the DRAW project, and Enhancing Access for Refugees and New Americans, or the EARN project. All right. So I want to pause just for a moment. We're going to be shifting now to our panel discussion. We have with us some fantastic state leaders who have participated in our technical assistance over the last year, and they're going to be able to share with us a little bit about their experiences. But before I move on, I just wanted to make sure if anybody had any questions about things that we've shared so far, because I know I went through that a little bit quickly. Please feel free to put those in the chat. And Grace, if I missed anything, if you want to just highlight that for me, or any questions that came up that I might have missed.
I don't believe any questions, but a lot of very lovely comments, like Adrienne saying she uses the resource collection most often, but need to promote the Learner Center.
Great. And I see she also noted that she started adding each community event to the Basecamp calendar so that all faculty staff know what's coming up, and that's a fantastic idea. All right. So again, if you do have any questions that come up as you're listening to our panelists, please feel free to put those in the chat. But I wanted to introduce you now to our panelists. So first up, we have Adrienne Fontenot. She is the Director of Adult Learning and Educational Programs for Louisiana Community and Technical College System. We also have Christy Schneiders, who's the Professional Development Specialist in Adult Education and Literacy at the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And last but not least, we have Danielle Peterson, who's an Education Specialist with Utah State Board of Education. And there are many more wonderful things that I could share about them, but I feel like you've heard enough from me, and I want to make sure to turn it over to them. So with that, let me tell you a little bit about the technical assistance that we provided to each of them, or to each of their states rather. So first, looking at Louisiana, their TA topic was motivating adult learners, and we provided that at the intensive level. Again, that means that we worked very closely with Adrian to figure out a schedule that worked well for them, a format that worked well for them. And we worked with the subject matter expert, facilitated all of that so that they could have the best experience possible. Similarly, in Missouri, their topic was teacher recruitment and retention. And at the intensive level, we were working with them to figure out the best way to provide that for them, identify exactly what questions they had around teacher recruitment and retention, and how to support them. I do want to note that an example of how we accommodated and worked and tailored everything to their schedule is that we did take a break over the summer. And because Christy shared with us that the teachers were going to be away and it didn't make sense to provide the training then. And so we paused. And so we're really excited to be picking it back up in September as we move forward and continue the technical assistance. In Utah, they had an opportunity to work, or we had an opportunity rather, to work with them on 2 targeted technical assistance opportunities. One was around reading instruction and one was around trauma-informed instruction. And again, because it was targeted, teachers from Utah came together with teachers from, I think it was 3 other states, who all came together to learn, participate in different activities, and build capacity together, learning from one another. They'll each tell you a little bit more about their technical assistance in just a few moments. But let's go ahead and get started with hearing from them. So the first question I have for our panel is, I'm hoping that you can share with us, how did you identify this TA topic as important for your state? Adrian, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
Okay, sure. So again, our topic was motivating adult learners. A bit of background, I have probably utilized.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
There's a lot of like reverberation or background noise. I know when we did the tech check earlier, there wasn't, so I'm not sure.
Do you hear anything now?
I did.
So it's okay.
No, I do still hear it. I don't know if you're on 2 computers or are you logged in twice?
No.
Okay.
If possible, Adrian, do you have headphones you could wear?
Yes. So maybe if somebody else would go ahead of me, I will grab those and be right back.
No problem. Thanks for being flexible. So Christy, let's start with you instead. Can you tell us about how you identified in Missouri that teacher recruitment and retention was a topic that you wanted to focus on for your technical assistance?
Absolutely. Am I okay? Is my audio okay?
Yes, you sound great.
Great. Again, our topic was recruiting and retaining AEL teachers throughout the state. I had the opportunity to take this position as a PD specialist in the state of Missouri in May of 2021, right at the end of the pandemic. And initially, we didn't know what PD was going to look like moving forward, or how programs were going to move forward in general. And so I reached out to every program within our state, and there are 30. And my counterpart, Jessica Schulte, and I called each director. We split the list up between the 30, so we each had 15 people to reach out to. We called each director within our local programs throughout Missouri and asked them a series of questions in an attempt to get to know them better and in an attempt to see how we could help move them forward, not only in terms of PD, but with their student population and their teachers as well. And the one thing that we got over and over again was we are having a hard time recruiting teachers to return to our classes, whether those were virtual or in person, for our AEL programs. And initially, we thought perhaps it was just the time period, but as the months rolled on, we realized that this was a consistent problem. And every time we spoke to our directors, they continued to say, not only are we having problems recruiting, but now we're having problems retaining our teachers in Missouri. And I don't think Missouri is unique in that aspect. I think that's a common theme, unfortunately, across our entire nation. But Jessica, my counterpart, and I wanted to help our directors do what we could so that they could serve as many students, adult education students, as possible. And so we began looking for a way to do this. We looked for experts in the field and found out that there really weren't many, either at the university level or at a K-12 setting, or even within state agencies. There wasn't a lot of experts that would talk or be able to address the topic of recruiting and retaining teachers. Just by happenstance, I was participating in a LINCS webinar. It was a live webinar at one day. And one of the participants within that webinar briefly mentioned, like in 5 seconds, as a side note, mentioned, well, the LINCS TA really helped my program. And I thought, that's very interesting. That might be another resource to look at. And so I got on the LINCS website, followed all the correct, links to get to the TA assistance, filled out the form telling them what I needed and give them, our information. It was really simple. It was like 3 or 4 minutes worth of effort. I was amazed at how simple it was, as a matter of fact. And then Marcella reached out to me via email and we began a conversation. And that's how I identified the not only what was important, but how we got started with addressing the importance of this topic for Missouri.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Christy. How about you, Danielle? Did you have a similar experience?
Well, ours was a little bit different in that we did the targeted level of technical assistance. So the LINCS team was the one that identified the topics and developed the training, and we were able to join with other states as a cohort as we went through a series of virtual meetings. As Marcella mentioned, one of those was on teaching reading to adults, and the other was on trauma-informed instruction. And as far as how we knew those topics were important for us in our state, we have several mechanisms that we use to collect feedback. We have an advisory group of local program leaders that we meet with regularly as a state team. We do an annual needs assessment survey with all of our program directors. And at our annual conference, we always include an evaluation survey and solicit feedback from the teachers as far as topics of interest. And our state team also identifies professional learning priorities just through our interactions with program staff. We meet individually with every program director every month. So we're talking to them regularly. And we also do on-site monitoring visits and data audits with programs that have a higher need of intervention as determined through risk assessment. And we're housed in the Board of Education in Utah. So we work really closely with K-12 and in our agency, helping teachers develop knowledge of the science of reading and supporting an increasingly diverse student population is definitely priorities of our agency. So those are things that we've tried to mirror through our work in adult education. So as LINCS pushed out these topics, it was easy for us to say, yep, we're in.
Perfect. And I'm so glad you were able to join. I know that your teachers really contributed to the learning of others as well. So Adrian, I've been told that your audio is a little bit better, perhaps. Can we check that out?
Let's see. Does it sound better now?
It's still echoey. We could maybe try it and
I said plan C. I can jump on my phone with the earbuds and try it that way. I can join Zoom. I can join the Zoom through my phone if this is still a little shaky.
yeah, let's go ahead and try that.
Okay.
And so we'll come back to you for your answer to this question. And maybe we'll move forward while you
Gotcha. I'll be right.
to transfer. All right. So while she's doing that, actually, I'd love to hear from our audience. You've heard about some of the topics that Adrian, Christy, and Danielle participated in. What are some topics that you might be interested in participating in TA, either at the targeted level or at the intensive level? If you even have ideas for these webinars, we'd love to hear those. So please feel free to share those in the chat. Great. So Valerie shared that the teacher retention was interesting and she'd like to learn more. That's great. I see Colorado could benefit from more HyFlex related webinars, advising for career pathways for students. Okay. I appreciate these suggestions. As I said, we're always looking for how we can better serve you as members of the field. So any ideas you have, I don't know who originally said there are no bad ideas, but I think this is definitely one of those cases that we're all better for it. If it's something, an area in which you need us to help you build capacity, we're happy to help. All right. So hopefully third time's the charm. I think I saw Adrian rejoin us.
Okay, let's try. Is this better?
Fantastic. Perfect.
Okay, this is better?
Yes. You sound, we can't see you, but that's okay.
Okay.
We'll take the audio for now.
Okay.
All right. So if you could, again, the question that we were looking at was how you identified motivating adult learners as a topic of importance for you.
Yeah, great. So I've been utilizing LINCS technical assistance for at least 10 years now. We always promote it in our administrator's manual, in our onboarding course, and at our trainings. The thing that we like the most about it is that it's really a simple process, and you end up with a quality product and meeting some great trainers over the years. So yes, this was the Motivating Adult Learners project. It was an intensive TA training. So the process for identifying really had two parts for us. As part of our own internal technical assistance, I work at the state office. We're at the Community and Technical College System. We have a very small staff, but we divide the staff and each take on talking with our program supervisors once a month. So we split the programs. So I have about 6 or 7 each month. And during these check-in calls, they're usually organized by theme: a data call, one on partnerships, targets, academics. Well, we had one on professional growth and programmatic technical assistance. So we asked them what types of PD activities supervisors and their staff may need. And our focus was really on finding out what the admin, what data, what student support, and instructors needed. We also asked them about the different types of technical assistance or PD that they were looking for. Is it webinars, online classes, community of practice, book studies? Do they want to try something new, like participating in a national initiative? Hint, hint. So lastly, we asked them what topics of interest, and it was open-ended, would help them in meeting their program goals for the years. So part two is my favorite part. I looked at the Links training catalog. And for me, that's like looking at the Sears Christmas catalog. I grew up in the 80s, and that was always a fun thing to do. Um, it's really cool because you can search by topic, you can sort by program type, or length of the training. And I found quite a few that we were interested in that met the needs of what our programs were asking for. So I completed the TA request form, and then from there, just emailed back and forth with the Links folks, and then jumped on the phone to kind of really figure out what would work best for what we were looking for, what our needs were, and what trainers and topics were there and their availability. So it was really important to end up settling on motivation as our topic. As someone mentioned earlier, coming out of COVID and getting folks back in addition to the many natural disasters, the hurricanes and floods that our programs had to deal with over the past few years, we really needed to work on something to bring those students in, and then to provide services, activities, and environments that were motivating to keep them there.
I think you were done speaking, Adrian. I'm not sure if you.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. It was very quick, so I didn't want to speak over you if you weren't done. But I think something, a common theme that I've heard in your responses, that I did want to highlight for our audience, is that it really sounds like you all of you listened to the fields, and asked your teachers and heard from your teachers what it is that they're interested in and what their needs are, which I think is really fantastic. And that's kind of the idea behind our technical assistants, supporting you and supporting your teachers in what they need. So I wanted to move on to our next question, that has to do with sort of, putting the TA in action, what it looked like in practice. So my question for you, and I think, and I apologize to my panelists, I think I'm switching things up on you unexpectedly. Danielle, do you mind starting us off with your answer to what the TA looked like for you?
Sure, that's great. Well, so for the TA on reading instruction, Links sourced a really great facilitator for us in Lacey Wise. We started with a half-day kickoff virtual session, and then the participants had several weeks that they were able to work independently through 2 of the courses in the Links Learning Portal. So that was teaching adults to read for beginning and intermediate readers, and teaching adults to read for advanced readers. And they also had a community of practice so they could interact and discuss their questions as they were working through those courses. For homework, they were just asked to apply what they were learning in the classroom and come back and share. So they later met for a second half-day session, and that was kind of the share out celebration as they ended the cohort in June. And then for the trauma-informed instruction cohort, that was structured as a series of live webinars. We met every other week over a period of 3 months. Again, a really great facilitator, Lucy Rosario, and breaking it up in over several sessions let us dive into several subtopics. So we were able to talk about like considerations for those in correctional facilities, or how we could support our staff that may be experiencing secondary trauma. We had opportunities to get into breakout rooms and be able to share. And there was also a community of practice that went along with that cohort as well. My role in all of that was really just pushing out information, identifying those who would be interested in participating, and the Links team did all the heavy lifting. We didn't have a large group participate in either of those, so it's something that we likely wouldn't have done if we didn't have the opportunity to be part of a cohort with the other states. So it's been a really good way for us to extend our professional learning offerings.
Sorry. Thanks for sharing that, Danielle. Let's see. Adrian, do you mind sharing about the TA that you participated in?
Yeah, sure. So recruitment for the project, We did send out an email announcement to all of the supervisors. And then I mentioned earlier in the comments that we use Basecamp for a lot of our communication needs. We have one for our adult education supervisors and one for faculty and staff. So we promote things there so that everybody gets the word. Then we created, I love a Google form, so we created a brief application just to see who was interested. And mainly because, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this, we wanted to make sure that we laid out all of the requirements, especially for this one was a couple of months long, so that we could ensure that participants knew what they were getting into, the time commitment, the workload, and also so that supervisors would give them the time and space to work on what they needed to and provide the equipment. You know, we sometimes run into people who said, well, I'm not on camera because I don't have, you know, my computer doesn't have a camera on it. So we wanted to make sure that we had time enough to get all of that to them and that they understood what was happening. So from there, one of the things that we really wanted to do is we have our state associations conference that was held in November of last year. So that was really our kickoff. Our subject matter expert did a webinar there on motivating adults, self-efficacy, goal setting, and the learning environment. So that was to get folks interested in what was happening and just to expose folks to the topic. So we pretty much did something every month. The next month we had an asynchronous discussion in LINCS on engaging students by using technology. So we had guest presenters there along with our facilitator, and folks could talk back and forth about the toolkit that she shared with them and just reflect upon some things in their practice. In January, we had another asynchronous discussion. This one was actually a community of practice where they would tell us what they actually implemented from what they learned in their classroom and talk about next steps. In February, we moved on to the self-directed course, which took about 3.5 hours for them to complete. And then the project wrapped up in March. We had a final 2-hour webinar where the participants were able to reflect on some of the lessons learned and think about the next steps.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Adrian. I know that yours was very intense over a short period of time, lots of different components. How about you, Christy? Can you tell us about your TA?
Yeah, absolutely. Once I was in talks with the LINCS people, I approached our advisory committee. We have in Missouri a panel of AEL directors who serve on an advisory committee who kind of are our test pilots, first our feelers, our bounce ideas off type of committee about this potential for a TA. And they were very excited. And they thought that perhaps the best thing to do was to start it in the spring at a spring directors conference. So each spring in Missouri, all 30 directors that we have in the state gather in one location for 3 days. And we have different topics of discussion. And one of them was that the TA that the LINCS provided us on teacher retention and recruitment. So it was a live webinar, and our expert that presented to us was Kathleen Porter from the Pogway School or United School District in the state of California. And she spoke for about an hour. Our directors were very attentive. And after that hour, we gave our directors about another hour in a roundtable discussion, not only to take her ideas, but to take ideas of their own and how they fit in to some of the ideas that were presented, and then come up with some a general list of things that they might be willing to implement moving into the next school year and over the summer, because remember, this was this past spring. And they were very excited. Now we are in the middle of our TA. We have not finished it, so we have more to continue with. And we'll I'll discuss that when I next have an opportunity to talk.
Great. Thanks so much, Christy. I'm excited for you to share a little bit more about the TA that we have coming up for you in this next quarter or so. But in the meantime, I was hoping to hear from our audience You've heard a little bit from our presenters about the different formats that their TAs took, the structures. Sometimes it involves a face-to-face session, kickoff at a conference. It can involve a course. It can involve a series of webinars. And of course, we want to make sure that it fits your needs. So if you don't mind sharing with us in the chat, we'd be really interested to hear what TA structure would work for you in your state. And perhaps you have another idea that we haven't come up with yet, and we'd love to hear that as well. Thanks for sharing, Lakeisha. That virtual would be fine, given that attendees are allowed to join from alternate non-working environment locations. And that's something that a lot of states have found to be really helpful. A common format, as I shared earlier, is a series of webinars, because exactly to your point, Lakeisha, that people can join when they're able. We often record these webinars so that if somebody's not able to join live, they can attend later. Okay, Glendy, thank you for sharing that would be best for Colorado as well. So we'll definitely keep that in mind, working with you in the future. All right, so please give it a little bit more thought if there is a format that you think would work really well for you in your state as you think about how we can provide technical assistance to you. Again, if you know that in your state, people will not attend webinars, we won't do webinars. If you know that they prefer webinars because it just makes things easier, we'll go with that. We'd like to tailor it to what works best for you. All right, so let's move ahead. We've talked about how things started, what they looked like, and now let's think to the future. So I'm going to ask each of you to share with us a little bit about what happens next in your state as a result of the TA that you received. So let's see. Adrian, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So I said we started off at our professional association conference last November. Well, it's happening again, and the call for proposals is out. So all the participants are going to hear from me again saying, let's get our presentations in. That conference, we have about, 400 adult educators there. So it's really the perfect time to get everybody exposed
to, I'll just drop my exposed to what we are when you're trying
to use your laptop as a phone stand, this happens. Perfect time to get everybody exposed to some of the things that we're trying to accomplish. So what typically happens is in that application that I referred to earlier, we ask that as part of the agreement to participate, that they do end up presenting together on whatever topic it is. Typically, we end up with about 2 sessions. The first one is usually an overview of sort of the resources that we found, what the project was like. It's kind of my way to drum up business for future projects to get folks involved. And then the second one is folks teaming together. So say we had 8 participants in this one, we might end up with 3 sessions if 4 want to talk about this certain aspect of it and the others want to talk about something else that they used either in their classrooms or their programs, because we did have a mix of instructors and program supervisors participating in this one. To help them out, I usually start a Google folder for us with presentation templates and resources we want to share. If there are any videos from their classrooms, then we can embed that in there so that we can all kind of work together. And I'll usually write the conference proposal for them. I know it's little things like that, but to save time, I'm the one who tries to take that off of their plates and get all of that in for them. And with these sessions at the conference, and I know it was mentioned earlier in the chat that someone was new, so LINCS was sort of new to them. With teacher turnover, you always end up with somebody who hasn't been exposed to LINCS in the audience. So it's a great time to go over the resources for them. But I think one of the most important things participating in this and other projects is that it got us thinking about our PD system as a whole and how we really enjoy doing these like sustained PD efforts, even though it was it was packed into a tight 5 months close together, but we got a lot out of it. So we redesigned our professional development and technical assistance system with a new user guide where it's based on professional growth and programmatic excellence. So individuals can earn badges for doing things like participating in national initiatives or communities of practice, presenting at a conference, or writing an article for us, something that they may never have done before. So like when I'm going to promote, Marcella mentioned Draw. When I'm going to promote Draw, one of the things that I mentioned was, hey, you can earn a badge for doing this and get some experience in doing other things. So it's really just a way to get everybody involved and thinking about professional development and technical assistance just outside of what they normally do. And it helps you to grow your teacher leaders. Like I said, supervisors and teachers, everybody participating at once. People who've never presented at conferences before, they feel safe because they're presenting. They may be able to teach a classroom full of students, but presenting may be something that's outside of their comfort zone. But by this way, us presenting together as a group, it gives them an introduction to that.
Thanks, Adrienne. And I hope, I know you're on your phone, but I hope you'll get an opportunity to see in the chat that everybody loves your ideas. And I just want to highlight that getting wonderful ideas from one another really is one of the benefits of participating in our technical assistance, whether it's the universal technical assistance or the targeted technical assistance where you're working with a cohort of states. All right. Let's see, how about you, Christy? You mentioned that you were excited to share with us, and I said I was excited to hear about what happens next in your state. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Actually, what happens next is the most exciting part because we're still in the middle of RTA, and so we have a lot to look forward to. We will continue with 3 more sessions on teacher retention and recruitment. The first one's in September, and then we also have one in October and November. And those all 3 happen with LINCS. So we're excited about that, and our directors are excited to learn more as well. When we end in November, we are going to give teachers the opportunity to digest all this information for a couple of months. Many of them will go on winter break in December and part of January and won't return until the middle of January. But shortly after that, we are going to gather together as a group of state directors for AEL in Missouri, and we're going to start compiling our ideas, those that we learned through our TA and those that we have thought of since we've been involved with the TA, and make a list of those. And I would be in charge of gathering all those ideas and put them on a list. And then also at that point, bring them back up at our next spring directors conference to review them and go over them and refresh their memory of them. So that they're constantly being encouraged to implement what they've been taught, what they have learned, what they have shared amongst themselves as they go on to recruit and retain teachers in the state of Missouri. So we're excited to see where this goes. We really are.
That's great. And I'm excited to see what happens next for you, looking even further into the future. Last but not least, Danielle, how about you? I know you wrapped up both of your targeted TAs. So what happens next?
Yeah, I would actually echo a lot of what Adrienne said. We have our annual conference coming up in a couple of weeks. So our immediate action is going to be incorporating some breakout sessions. We have some of our colleagues from the State Office of Education and the Special Education Department coming to share effective interventions for reading and math. And then we're also going to lean on links again. Charisse Moore is coming out to our conference to present and give us some training on universal design for learning and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Super excited about that. As Adrienne said, one of our strategies kind of long-term for sourcing presenters for our conference has been scholarshiping individuals to COABE. So we'll pay for your conference if you'll come back and present for us. And that's worked really well for us kind of year over year. And then long-term with these topics, we're looking at setting up some micro-credentialing that could be stacked into an adult education endorsement. Currently, anyone with a K-12 license teaches in adult education, and we don't have a specific endorsement. And so that's something we'd like to work toward. And these are both topics that are so important for all educators.
That's great. I want to echo Charisse said that she loved your idea. So I do too. So thank you for sharing about all the exciting things that are happening in your states. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing it come to fruition. I wanted to, one last question for our audience. As you all look into the future, what impact would you want to see as a result of participating in the TA? And I see Margaret got a jump start on answering this question even before I had asked it. She said, I think the future of TA is vital at this point by putting what we learn at conferences into action. So I think that that's a great first answer. I'm going to pause and give you all time to think what impact you would want to see as a result of participating in TA. What would your goals be for your technical assistant? I really like what Valerie shared, student outcomes and increase in teacher effectiveness. I think that very much aligns with what our goals are by providing the TA. So I like to hear that. We had a couple of more responses. Increased respect for the adult ed and career education profession, increased student outcomes, state level AE credential and certification. Those are really good. Thanks for sharing those. And whatever the topic subject that the TA provides PD on, the ability to replicate, duplicate, disseminate to providers within our state who maybe aren't able to attend the TA cohort sessions. And I think you'll find that again aligns with what we try to do. I did want to mention, in case somebody missed the question earlier in the chat, and Lee had asked it, which is why seeing your name again reminded me to sort of highlight that, is that you'd asked if there's a cost, or if the resources that are available through links need to be budgeted for in your state budget or funding for professional development. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone had heard or had read the answer, was that there is no cost for our technical assistance or for participating in the online courses that I mentioned, for accessing the resources, for participating in the links community. It's something that we do as a service to the field with funding from Octave. Right. So let's move ahead. We haven't really had too many questions, but I wanted to pause here. It's always kind of hard and maybe a little awkward when we're doing it through Zoom to know how long to pause. But I want to provide a space for if you have any questions that have not yet been answered. If you have a question for our panelists about their experiences, anything that you want to ask at this moment. If there are no questions, no worries. Again, as a reminder, you can always email us. And Grace, if you don't mind, if you could put in the chat again, our email address is training@links. Perfect, you read my mind. At training@links.ed.gov. And we hope that you'll reach out with any questions you might have about the technical assistance. So you heard our presenters mention earlier that they use the technical assistance request form. You see a snapshot of that on our screen, and also on the bottom right-hand side is the QR code that you can use to access that form. You can also click on the link that Grace put into the chat. And so the process that I'm just going to reiterate, that was shared a couple of times by our presenters, but the process is that you will submit the form. We will reach out to you. A member of the links team will reach out to you to get a little bit more information about what it is that you're interested in, how we can help, get a better understanding of what your need is. And then we'll put together a plan that will meet your need. We'll work with you and our subject matter expert to refine that, to make sure that we are meeting your need and that everybody's on the same page. We'll share that with Octave, who will approve that, and then we'll move forward after that, so that we can help to build your capacity on that topic of importance. Sorry. Before I go on to share with you a little bit about our next month's webinar in this webinar series, I did want to share with you that if you want to continue the conversation on this topic of how to leverage links in your state, specifically around professional development, there's an opportunity to continue the discussion. AALPD is holding an event on September 13th at 3 p.m. I will be there to continue the discussion, share with you a little bit more about how you can use links specifically around professional development. And I'm happy to share with you any additional information that you have. If you have questions that come up as a result of thinking a little bit more after today's session, it's a great time to chat. You'll also get to hear from other professional developers about what they're doing and how they're using links. So with that, I do want to make sure that I share with you about next month's webinar. It will be on the topic of promising practices for co-enrollment. It's National Workforce Development Month. And so we're excited to highlight for you this important topic of co-enrollment. That webinar will take place on September 27th, 2023. Like today's webinar, it will run from 3 p.m. Eastern or noon Pacific to 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. And we hope that you'll be able to join us. Grace put the link in the chat for that if you'd like to register now so you don't forget. And we want to make sure, as always, that we are meeting your needs. So if you could please share in the chat any questions that you have related to promising practices for co-enrollment. We'll be sure to share those with our presenters, make sure that they get addressed during the webinar. I saw a question about certificates, and unfortunately, we do not provide those for our Universal Team webinars at this time. But if you participate in our events through the Links community, we do have those available. Right. So I encourage you to continue to put into the chat any additional questions related to co-enrollment that you might have, any questions that you have about anything that came up. And if not, I want to thank all of you for participating. I want to thank our fantastic panelists, Adrian, Christy, and Danielle. I really appreciate hearing about your technical assistance experience, all the exciting things that you have coming up. And I can't wait to learn more. I hope that all of you will reach out and let us know how we can help you and support you a little bit more as you build your capacity within your state. Nancy had a question in the chat about whether co-enrollment is between titles or with post-secondary, and we're going to try to touch on a little bit of everything, Nancy. We're still working on all the details, but we'll definitely keep your question in mind as we develop that. All right. And if there are no other questions, thanks again, everyone, for participating in today's webinar. And we hope to see you next month for our next webinar in this series.